greatest disaster film The Great Flood, starring Kim Demi, has finally arrived. Early in the morning, Anna is jolted awake by several deafening booms. At first, she assumes it is just an ordinary rainstorm and does not think much of it, until she goes to prepare breakfast and discovers that rainwater is actually pouring backward into the apartment through the windows. When she walks back to the window, she freezes on the spot, realizing that the water has already risen to the second floor. Her son Jaein excitedly jumps around, even lying on the floor and pretending to swim. The community broadcast urgently instructs all residents to head to the rooftop for safety, repeatedly warning that the elevators have been shut down and that only the stairwells can be used. Anna immediately picks up Jaein, places him on the table, then turns and rushes back into the bedroom to pack. At that moment, Sun Hee-jo, a security officer from the Darwin Research Center, calls her and says that rescue teams are on the way, urging her to move upstairs immediately. But before he can finish, the signal suddenly cuts out. The power goes out as well, and the water has already risen to nearly knee height. Without time to think, Anna throws on a jacket, grabs Jaein's medication, and prepares to evacuate. But when she returns to the living room, Jaein is gone, and she finally finds him hiding inside a wardrobe. The entire building has fallen into chaos. The emergency stairwell is blocked because someone has fallen, and without hesitation, Anna immediately turns toward another staircase. The water level is visibly rising to the third floor, and several residents are swept directly into the flood. When she reaches the landing between the 7th and 8th floors, the passage ahead is completely blocked by debris, and she tries to climb over the obstacles to reach the 8th floor, but fails. The 7th floor corridor is packed with people seeking shelter, and at that moment, Anna spots Sun Hee-jo in the building across from her, but just as she waves to him, Jaein suddenly disappears. She watches him enter an apartment and rushes in after him, but in the next second, a massive surge of water comes crashing in. Holding her breath, Anna desperately searches underwater, and in the brief moment she comes up for air, the 7th floor is already almost completely submerged. At last, she finds Jaein in one of the rooms, but when she tries to leave with him, the door is jammed shut by the immense water pressure. At the critical moment, Sun Hee-jo breaks in from outside and signals Anna to swim upward with Jaein.
애가 숨을 안 쉬네.
After revealing his identity, Sun Hee-jo reports to the organization that senior researcher Anna and Jaein are still alive. After the report, the three of them quickly move toward the rooftop. Along the way, Sun Hee-jo tells Anna that the company's helicopter will arrive any minute. Anna notices that the rainwater tastes salty and voices her concern, and Sun Hee-jo explains that 3 hours earlier, a small asteroid struck Antarctica, instantly melting the polar ice and sending seawater surging northward. And at this rate, even this 30-story building will not hold out for long.
잠깐만요. 잠깐. 그럼 사람이 다 죽어요?
다니던 직장이 단순히 인공지능 개발하는 연구소인 줄 아셨겠지만 아니요. 그쪽이 새 인류를 만들어야 한답니다.
The company Anna works for was originally focused on artificial intelligence research, but now they are carrying out an even more extreme mission, the creation of a new kind of human. There are only 2 people responsible for developing the emotional engine of the AI, and aside from Anna, the other researcher disappeared early this morning and is presumed dead. Because of this, Anna's safety has become the top priority, and the helicopter will take her to a temporary shelter before assigning her new tasks. Everything happens too suddenly for Anna. Her emotional engine is still in the testing phase, and with the chief absent, it would be nearly impossible for her to finish alone. But Sun Hee-jo tells her that even if it cannot be completed, it must be, because other teams have already succeeded in creating new humans with complete bodies, intelligence, and even the ability to reproduce. And the only missing piece is the emotional system. When they reach the 15th floor, Jaein suddenly needs to use the bathroom, and Sun Hee-jo quickly chooses a nearby apartment so they can take care of it. After Jaein goes inside, Sun Hee-jo receives a call from the organization, questioning whether he has told Anna the truth, but Sun Hee-jo responds that he has not.
뭐하러 그런 얘기를 해? 별말 없고 잘 따르고 있어요.
Before Jaein comes out, Sun Hee-jo warns Anna that boarding the helicopter will not be easy, because desperate residents will fight for seats at all costs, even abandoning their parents and families. So she must find a way to push others aside when the time comes. Anna receives another call and dials her mother. Her mother seems to have already sensed the ending and tearfully urges Anna to survive no matter what. As soon as the call ends, a gas leak suddenly occurs inside the apartment, and the three rush outside to continue escaping. But in the next second,
갑시다. 일단 이것부터 쉬우세요. 그냥 올리시면 돼요.
싫어. 엄마 금방 올라갈 거야. 싫어.
Anna falls into the freezing seawater, grabs a floating board, and desperately swims toward the other side. At that moment, cries for help suddenly come from a sealed elevator, and the voice belongs to a little girl named Jisoo. Unable to turn away, Anna immediately searches for tools to help, but after frantic searching, she finds nothing. When she rushes back again, the seawater has nearly submerged the entire elevator. Massive waves are flooding into the building, and Jisoo can no longer be saved. Anna continues upward and reunites with Jaein. After finally finding the two of them, Jaein suddenly suffers a relapse, and the medication she had prepared in advance was lost during the escape. Sun Hee-jo urges Anna to board the helicopter first and figure out how to help Jaein later, but Anna cannot bring herself to do that. She rushes into an elderly couple's apartment, hastily prepares a simple substitute medication, and feeds it to Jaein herself. As she gives him the medicine, Anna's memories drift back to the research lab. She once requested that the institute take Jaein back, because Jaein is not a real human, but a product of an experiment. During one trip, Anna's family tragically fell into the sea. Her husband's legs were trapped and he could not escape, and in his final moment, he placed Jaein into Anna's arms and asked her to survive with the child. After her husband's death, she always believed she was unfit to be a mother, but the chief once told her otherwise.
엄마가 적성인 사람이 어딨어. 이거 이모션 엔진 완성된 거 센터에서도 인정했어. 어차피 더 이상 애들 맡아서 키울 필요도 없어. 몇 달만 지나면은 센터에서 자인이 회수할 거야. 우리 유진이도 차라리 만들지 말 걸 그랬나 봐.
If at the beginning, Anna only hoped the institute would reclaim Jaein, then after all they have been through together, Jaein has become an inseparable part of her life. After the brief emergency treatment, Jaein gradually regains consciousness. The dark clouds begin to part, sunlight cuts across the sky, and after witnessing everything Anna has done, Sun Hee-jo finally reveals the truth, that from the very beginning, the organization only intended to take Anna, while Jaein was meant to be abandoned and was never supposed to board the helicopter.
나는 사실 새 인류 뭐 그런 거 관심 없고 마지막에 안나 씨가 자인이 어떻게 하나 그거 보려고 왔어요. 안나 씨 입장이 충분히 그럴 수도 있잖아.
그게 왜 보고 싶은데요?
내가 자인이만 할 때 내 엄마란 사람이 딱 그랬어요. 나보다 더 울면서 다시 온다더니 안 왔어. 애들은 그런 거 평생 가거든요. 그래서 안나 씨 혼자 가는 거 보면 그나마 내 마음이 좀 편해질 줄 알았죠. 아, 나만 버려진 게 아니구나. 저런 사람이 또 있구나. 사람이란 게 원래 저런 거구나. 세상 망하는 날 나는 그거 꼭 확인해보고 싶었어요.
At that moment, the sky suddenly darkens, and towering waves can be seen surging in from the distance. Anna and the others quickly move upward, while the elderly couple chooses to remain seated, quietly waiting for the end. As they are about to reach the rooftop, a heavily pregnant woman and her husband beg Anna for help, but Anna knows clearly that even if she saves them, there is no way to take them away, so she can only grit her teeth and keep running toward the rooftop. On the rooftop, security personnel are already waiting.
유엔 산하 비공식 연구기관 다윈센터는 현재 이 재난으로 인한 인류 멸종을 막기 위해 총력을 다합니다. 둘, 이에 따라 구한나 책임연구원은 총 49명의 특무연구원 중 1명으로 지정됐으며 현 시간부로 가설연구소로 이동, 이모션 엔진 개발을 완수합니다. 셋, 위 두 가장을 수행하기 위한 모든 조치에 구한나 책임연구원은 적극 협조합니다. 절차 끝났어요. 차출 대상 인계합니다.
수고했어요. 구책이님, 현 시간부로 다인센터의 자산인 뉴맨 77의 모든 데이터를 회수합니다.
The security team forcibly takes Jain away, and Anna desperately pleads with Sun Hee-jo, hoping he can take Jain with them. But Sun Hee-jo tells her an even more brutal truth, that the chief did not drown at all, but escaped with her own child, because she would rather face death than abandon her daughter. And Anna once said with her own mouth that she did not want a child. And from that moment on, the outcome was already decided.
작별 인사 잘하시고.
빨리 꺼내. 시간 없어.
님을 미쳐서! 나한테 손대지 마! 나한테 손대지 마라! 니네 나라만 죽여버릴 거야! 안 죽여버릴 거야! 제발 살려주세요! 나애를 죽이면 안 돼요! 제가 이모션을 믿고 만들게요! 제발요!
구책이님, 자인이 성과가 잘 나왔잖아요. 그래서 나중에 다른 이모션 엔진 만들려면 자인이가 꼭 있어야 된다고 구책임님이 그러셨다면서요. 보호수가 어떻겠습니까?
The so-called temporary shelter was a lie from the very beginning, and even Sun Hee-jo himself never expected that he would ultimately fall to a colleague's gun. All the security personnel on the rooftop, except Anna, will not survive. Anna is forced to accept reality, and before separating from Jain, she leans down close to his ear and whispers a few words. Multiple rockets ignite at the same time and launch into outer space, and the person in charge tells Anna that within the next 15 minutes, tens of thousands of meteor fragments will fall toward Earth, and when that happens, most life on the planet will cease to exist. To prevent humanity from disappearing entirely, the Darwin Research Institute launched a total of 7 rockets this morning from launch sites around the world, and from this moment on, they will become the last survivors of humankind. To ensure that civilization can continue after the Great Flood, the Institute must use existing knowledge and technology to complete its own evolution. At the destination, the Isabella Laboratory, they are already able to create perfect human bodies, but the only missing piece is still the emotional engine, and this task can only be completed by Anna. Anna ultimately decides to set the next test subject's core role as mother, and make the child disappear. The test subject will face constant obstacles while searching for the child, and if it fails, it must return to the beginning and start over, and only after succeeding through countless cycles can the emotional engine truly be completed. Anna chooses to transform herself into the test subject, and when she awakens again, time returns to the morning when the flood first broke out. The number 491 on her clothing represents that she has already gone through 491 cycles, just like the first time the flood arrived. Sun Hee-jo calls Anna again, but at that moment, Jain suddenly tells her that he had a dream last night and asks Anna to look at the drawing he sent to her phone. Anna does not take it seriously and instead impatiently scolds Jain for bothering her. As usual, Jain hides inside the wardrobe, and Anna warns him that today he is not allowed to do anything and must stay obediently by her side.
6살이야? 어제도 6살이고 어제도 6살이고 왜 어제도 6살이야?
뭐라고 하는 거야? 너 빨리 옆에 일로 와.
Anna still does not take Jain's words to heart. The emergency passage is blocked, and this time, the other route is also crowded with people. Anna lets Jaein climb upward first, but when she climbs up herself, Jaein is nowhere to be found. In the next second, she watches helplessly as Jaein falls into the sea again, and Anna jumps down without hesitation to try to save him, only to be struck head-on by an out-of-control car. During the 787th cycle, Sun Hee-jo saves her and shows her a photo, telling Anna that Jaein ran upstairs. This version of Sun Hee-jo has no memory at all and continues to deceive Anna, telling her to board the helicopter first and claiming they will take Jaein away together.
우리 애 어딨어?
그가 이리 줘.
두 번 말 안 해. 우리 애 어딨어?
한나 씨, 이러다 다 죽어. 일단 올라갑시다. 예?
애 없었냐니까!
뭘 어째요? 만난 적도 없는 애를!
By the 1931st cycle, Anna jumps directly into the water, and when passing the elevator again, she even tries to pry open the elevator doors with her bare hands. But when the seawater completely submerges the elevator, she ultimately fails and is taken down with it. By the 4007th cycle, Anna snaps a mop handle, pries open the elevator gap, forcibly pulls the elevator doors apart, and successfully saves Jisoo. After learning that Anna is searching for her son, Jisoo tells her that when she was trapped, she heard several people holding a child and questioning him.
엄마 어딨냐고 묻다가 집이 몇 호냐고 비밀번호 아냐고.
그래서? 지수야, 자세히 좀 얘기해 줄래? 그 사람들 뭐 하는 사람들 같았어?
바닥에 뭘 끌던 소리가 났어요.
After saying goodbye to Jisoo, Anna continues her search for Jaein. When she reaches the elderly couple's door, the sounds of strangers shouting and beating someone come from inside, and Anna suddenly remembers that in the previous cycle, she was also killed by this same group of people. But even knowing the outcome, Anna still rushes inside.
우리 애 어떻게 했어?
야, 그냥 가자.
한나 씨! 한나 씨! 애 찾았어요?
연이야! 빨리 그래요! 이 사람들!
야, 문 잠가! 한나 씨! 한나 씨!
As the cycle is about to reset once again, Anna grabs a weapon nearby and fights back, yet she is still forced into a corner. At the critical moment, Sun Hee-jo arrives with Jisoo and throws the two looters who were taking advantage of the flood straight into the sea.
네 친구 어떻게 되는지 봤지? 팔 부러지면 물에 못 든다.
아니요, 그게 아니라 얘가 혼자 있길래 그냥 장난으로 말 걸고 그랬는데 집이 3층이라길래 그냥 보냈어요. 얘 어디 간지 몰라요. 진짜요, 진짜.
그래, 그런 거 같네.
Anna wants to take Jisoo with her, but Jisoo chooses to stay behind and remain with her grandparents. Sun Hee-jo tells Anna that the organization is searching for Jaein and urges her to go to the rooftop immediately. But Anna knows exactly what the rooftop represents, so she decisively chooses to search for Jaein on her own. When the cycle reaches 7,993, Anna hears the painful cries of a woman in labor, followed by the birth of a newborn baby. She steps forward, covers the baby with a blanket, takes off her jacket and places it over the woman's shoulders, then turns around and continues searching for Jaein. Looking at the happy family of 3 before her, Anna suddenly remembers what Jaein once said. "I sent the drawing to your phone." The moment she opens her photo gallery, she is stunned to discover that what Jaein drew was the scene of their very first separation on the rooftop. At that moment, Anna finally understands why Jaein has always remained 6 years old. Because in every cycle, Jaein's memory was never erased, and time again, he drew the same picture, simply to tell Anna that he remembered everything. Just as Anna puts all of this together, members of the organization suddenly appear and try to forcibly take her onto the helicopter. But Anna suddenly speaks to Sun Hee-jo.
아저씨, 애기보다 옥상에서 죽었어. 기억 안 나요? 우리 본 적 있잖아.
By this point, the cycle has reached 13,417, and Sun Hee-jo finally chooses to believe in Na and turns to fight against the security personnel.
이런 게 몇 번이나 있었어요.
처음에 제가 자인이를 버린 후로 자인이는 매번 사라졌었어요. 수천 번을. 우리 이 얘기도 처음 아니에요. 그리고 걔는 처음부터 다 알고 있었던 것 같아요.
그래서 사라진 거네. 엄마가 또 자기 버릴까봐.
여기서부터 그쪽 도움이 필요하거든요. 걔가 화나거나 마음에 안 들면 옷장에 잘 숨곤 하는데 지금 문 열려있는 집은 30층에 하나 남았어요. 분명히 거기 있을 거예요. 근데 문제는
우리 보안팀. 맞아. 그랬던 것 같네.
When the cycle reaches 21,499, after resisting again and again and failing again and again, Anna continuously adjusts her strategy and keeps testing different paths. Eventually, after an unknown number of tens of thousands of cycles, she finds Jayan inside a storage cabinet on the rooftop.
엄마가 또 버리고 가서 미안해. 근데 엄마 또 까먹을 것 같아.
버리고 가는 거 엄마가 기다리라고 했잖아. 그때 옛날에 엄마가 꼭 온다고 기다리라고 했잖아. 귓속말로.
자인아, 엄마 뒤에 옷장 보여? 눈 뜨면 거기 꼭 숨어 있어? 응? 엄마가 꼭 찾으러 올게. 꼭 기다려야 돼?
In truth, Anna's original body had already died during the very first journey into space. The asteroid collided with the rocket, fragments pierced her body, and before dying, she asked the person in charge to extract her memories and turn her into an experimental subject.
다른 팀들에게도 이 방법 전달했어요. 요청하신 대로 구책임님과 자인이의 기억 모두 함께 추출되어 이사벨라 랩으로 전송합니다. 전송된 기억을 기반으로 실험을 시작할 거예요. 언젠가 이 실험이 성공한다면 새 인류는 지구로 돌아갑니다.
At this moment, ahead of her is a towering wave that will swallow everything, and to her left are members of the organization trying to forcibly separate them. Anna does not hesitate. She sets John down and tells him to jump into the sea, while she desperately holds off the security personnel to buy him time. At the moment the cycle is about to end, every memory of her time with John flashes through Anna's mind. In this moment, maternal love overcomes everything, and Anna finally breaks through the technical barrier and completes the final experiment of the emotional engine. With this, the film comes to an end.
엄마 일어나봐. 엄마 일어나봐.